Yeah. So this video too for the day. Then I gotta get outside and get to work. I got a lot of brush to put in the chipper. Chipper's running great, by the way, since I got it sorted out. Since I got that obstruction out of there. It's running great now. It's a good chipper. It starts on the first pull. Put some Marvel Mystery Oil in the gasoline, runs on straight unleaded gasoline, petrol. What else? Oh, I run Royal Purple in the oil. Probably gonna switch that to AMSOIL. I think I'm probably gonna switch all of my stuff to AMSOIL. There's nothing wrong with Royal Purple. It's an excellent oil. I just want to convert everything to AMSOIL. I've always wanted to convert everything to AMSOIL, but I never did. But so I got some things with Royal Purple, some with little AMSOIL. Some things are AMSOIL, some's Royal Purple. I had to make a decision. I just decided I can't be, Royal Purple is more convenient because you could go to the store and you could just buy it off the shelf. But I've decided that I'm just going to go ahead and buy a bunch of AMSOIL products and just have them on hand. Because I got equipment and things around here. Being in the country, that's the thing, guys. Being in the country, you have to have some power equipment. Unless you're Amish and you have 10 kids, you have to have some power equipment. I cannot afford a tractor. Okay, that's just the way it is, right? Not a real tractor. Not, if I could find a used International harvester, for a good price that ran well, that might be one thing, but it is what it is. You spread things out over different things. Brush in the country, you definitely need a brush hog. DR Power makes a brush hog. Okay, the Big Orange, the Great Pumpkin. I recommend getting a DR Power brush hog. If you've got a lot of heavy brush and heavy weeds to clear on a regular basis, that is definitely a piece of equipment that you want. Then of course, everybody needs a mower. My mower, crapped out on me. The riding part runs well, but the mow deck, I've had to I had to re-weld the deck a couple times, and it's just falling apart, cracking and breaking up in pieces. And I had to put a strut, I bolted a strut to hold things together, and I just got disgusted and took it off the mower and threw it in the barn. And then I got another mow deck for that mower, which was a mistake because I know it's just going to happen again. It's a Husqvarna mower. The part that you actually ride on, the little tractor part, it runs fine. It is a Husqvarna engine also. Okay, so that runs fine. The ride-on tractor is fine, but the mow deck is just trash. And I will never, probably, might eat my words. I will never buy another of those types. You look at those mow decks and you think, oh, that's gonna last. No, just one day I rode it out of the barn, and I noticed that the mow deck was hanging on the ground on one side, and that was because the welding had broken on that holds the mow deck to the mower to the tractor. It just fell off. That's inexcusable. And another thing that you notice too anymore on a lot of products is you see where they're trying to save time and money with the welders by having them weld, 2 or 3 inch weld here, 2 or 3 inch weld there, 2 3 inch weld there, instead of one continuous weld on the seam. It's a weld here, a weld there, welding the plates together and whatnot. Those welds will crack over if they're stressed too hard. Those welds will crack at the end of the weld. They will. And I've seen this even on high-end mowers. Skag and Ferris and other high-end mowers out there. Gravely, I've seen it on them. And the thing is that those machines cost lots and lots of money. I mean, they need to take the time to have them things MIG welded all the way around. The whole thing. Production welds, especially now they got robots, done, It's just not even, I mean, I don't think it should be a question as to whether, let's say, a $10,000 or $12,000 mower that mows grass. I don't think that it should be a question as to whether all of the seams are completely one weld or not. You may as well just have a bunch of spot welds. Yeah. So yeah, I gripe about what you get versus the amount of money things cost nowadays. The thing is that you used to be able to buy something and it would last you 100 years, or it would last you 50 years. Things were just built better. They were just built better. We'll only got about 7 minutes left, and I don't want to make one more video because I got so many things to do. But my area where I'm going to keep my wood, my firewood, I've already scalped it to the ground, and then I'm going to put down, I've got it already, I've got the anti-weed cloth, and I'm going to lay that down on the ground. I'm going to put that on the ground, and then I'm going to put diatomaceous earth on top of the weed cloth, and then I have pallets, some special pallets. They're long and they're built pretty well, from what I can see. And I'm thinking I'm going to take the used motor oil that I keep back and paint the pallets on the bottom with the used motor oil. See, that is a secret. That's an old secret that I picked up, okay, from my past generations. Used motor oil, you paint it on the eaves on your barn and your wood shed, and you paint it on posts that go in the ground. Let that wood soak up that old used motor oil, and the insects don't want nothing to do with it. They don't. I got when I installed my heavy gates, my heavy steel gates out at the road, I got a double gate set up that I installed myself. I dug down 3 feet by hand with the post hole maker, and anyway, I got sections of telephone pole. Now those are already treated with some creosote, which most of the time the insects won't bother that. But I went and soaked them and used motor oil, and the insects don't bother those posts. Okay, any kind of posts that you got going in the ground, soak them in used motor oil. The insects will not, they will not go into those posts. You know, let it soak up good. Yeah. And you know, barns, my old barn's from 1700. And the thing is, it's still standing, and the wood is super thick. You know, it's got half tree trunks for some of the beams in there. And, you know, the paint, I've never painted it. And the paint has been on there forever. And I'm going to want to paint it probably at some point, but I'm going to try to paint it the old way, you know, with oil paint, because oil paint, insects don't like it. You know, they just don't. Carpenter bees don't like it. Other insects don't like it. You know, but diatomaceous earth, that kills insects. They walk through that stuff, and it's like they're getting lacerated as they walk. So they end up dying from dehydration because it puts all these little cuts over their insect bodies, and they don't recover from that. They just, you know, shrivel up and die. Another secret. You guys better be writing this down, because I'm not going to keep talking about these things. Another secret is to smoke your firewood. Get a bee smoker. That's right. Get a bee smoker. Get it going good where it's producing billows of heavy smoke. And smoke that wood. And the insects they do not like anything that reminds them of a fire. Okay? So you smoke that wood, and you smoke all that wood as you're stacking it. Okay? Smoke it. And of course you have your diatomaceous earth on the very bottom. You can throw some diatomaceous earth inside of the first layer of your firewood down below. You know, that way if they're crawling around up in there, you know, nosing about, that they're gonna die, you know. Of course, the used motor oil, engine oil, you know. That's right. These are all old school things that nobody knows anymore. Nobody teaches them anymore. You know, this stuff comes down from my father and my grandfather. And, you know, those are things that people need to know, and they need to put back into practice. I don't throw any motor oil away. When I change the engine on the truck, changing the engine oil on the truck, it goes into a 1-gallon jug. And I got paint brushes, and sometimes I'll paint stuff. Looks like there's some insects messing about in that area. I'll get some used motor oil and go over there and start painting it, and it soaks into that wood. Bye. You know, go find another house. You know, diatomaceous earth, throw that in around your vegetable garden, around the base of your plants and stuff. The aphids and all that, forget it. Ants, forget it. You know, you see less. And one year I had a problem with my corn. Mice eating my corn. The very first time I ever planted and harvested corn was a disaster years ago. And what happened was I had a really nice crop of corn come up. Oh, I was salivating looking at it, thinking about all this corn on the cob I was going to have. And it looked great. And then I went out there one evening when I was doing my watering and stuff, and I went out to the corn and I wanted to go and check it. You know, you check the corn by taking a fingernail to the kernel and seeing how easy it pops and water comes out. Okay, if it's nice and tender, it's ready. You know, if it looks ready, it's not always ready, but if it looks ready and it does that, then it's ready. But anyway, the mice had been rock climbing the stalks and eating every last kernel of all of the corn in the middle of my corn section. All of the corn on the outsides was intact. So they were staying out of sight, out of mind in the middle of my corn, eating it all. And I actually caught one of the little, you know, yeah. So I actually caught one. I saw him climbing up. You know, he was doing his best impression of you know, Masters of Stone, climbing up the stalk and going for an ear of corn. Man, I was mad. I did not get very much corn that first year. I immediately just started picking all the good corn. I was like, you're not getting all of it. Yeah. Anyway, so what's the deal with that? Ghost pepper. So I took powdered ghost pepper, and I bought several jugs, 5-pound jugs of powdered ghost pepper. And from then on, I started sprinkling that crap all around my corn stalks, and they don't want nothing to do with it. Anything you plant in the ground, something's going to go digging around. As a matter of fact, put ghost pepper powder on the top. They will leave it alone. Doesn't matter if it rains or not. They ain't going to mess with it. Ghost pepper, right? Alright guys, time to get to work. See you later.